Steve,
Yes, sir.
Stephen,
Yes, sir.
all my screens are frozen except my own picture.
Is that any better, sir?
No.
Yeah, you're having a little bit of connection issue, sir.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just had a message saying that everything was fine with my system.
Are we live yet on home TV?
You are live.
Very good.
Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm having a little trouble, it seems, with my computer. Good afternoon. It's a little afternoon, and we're doing a special meeting of the Township Board on December 18th. I call the meeting to order. And if we could all say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Okay, we need a roll call from our clerk.
All right, Supervisor Stika,
Here.
Clerk Guthrie is here, Treasurer DeShane,
Here.
Trustee Jackson,
Here.
Trustee Opsimer,
Here.
Trustee Sunland. I don't, does someone else see, does someone see her on this? You don't
Yeah,
see her?
I didn't hear anything negative from her in terms of attendance.
Okay, and Trustee Wazinski.
Here.
We have one absent at this point.
One absent.
All right. We now have a presentation, I believe, or are we just gonna, no, we don't have a presentation. We have citizens addressing agenda or non-agenda items. Mr. Geeves, do we have any citizens?
There are actually several citizens in the meeting area, and they can, of course, use the raise hand function if they'd care to make a public comment at this time. Alternatively, we can take calls at 517-349-1232 for anyone who's joining us via one of our internet streams and or Comcast Home TV. One more time, that number, 517-349-1232. I didn't see any hands go up in the attendee area, and I'll pause for just a second more to see if we get a phone call, but it sounds quiet at this point.
Yeah, I'll just mention that there'll be a second opportunity for public comment near the end of the meeting. This is the first of the two, and you get 3 minutes if you do decide to speak. You gotta identify yourself with your address. Anything, Mr. Geeves?
We have no calls, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then we will go on to approval of the agenda. Ms. Jackson,
Move approval of the agenda as written.
Mr. DeShane,
Support.
any other comments on the agenda before we vote on it? All right, then call the roll, please, Ms. Guthrie.
All right, Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Trustee Opsimer,
Yes.
Trustee Lizinski,
Yes.
and Supervisor Stika.
Yes, you should still call Sunland even though she's not here.
Okay, Trustee Sunland.
Absent, okay. She may show up, let's hope so. All right,
I keep looking for her. You never know.
that's right. All right, I will go on now on the agenda to board discussion items. It's listed as two. It's sort of one in a way, and I'll call on the township manager to lead this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and good afternoon, Board. There's really two components we want to talk about this afternoon. We appreciate your time with a special meeting. The first is what are we doing with our COVID response? Some of the police, fire, and Parks Department and others. And then the second one would be to talk about a program, the round two of a program that the board did several months ago. So at this time, I'd like to call on just a few directors to give a brief update on what we're doing as far as our COVID response, and then respond to you. This is our response, non-business related program. So I call on our HR director, Director Tehoff first.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, board. First off, I'd just like to start by thanking you for helping us implement the Safe Work from Home program, which we began on November 9th. With the thanks to you and our IT department for getting everything to our staff so that we could work from home safely for those who are able to do so. We were able to reduce the headcount in our buildings while still being able to continue operations and serve the public. We've been doing very well in honoring our safety protocol, wearing our masks, wearing them correctly, social distancing, eliminating in-person meetings, and doing all kinds of things virtually, as you know, in our daily lives. Zoom is our thing. It's our way of staying connected and communicating. Leadership and staff have been exceptional in this program since I even got here. If there are ever any questions, concerns, or symptoms, people are contacting me right away. I even get phone calls on the weekends just because people don't know for sure what they should do and they want to do the right thing. So they're staying connected with me, and that is everything in implementing this and making sure that we're all staying safe. I've been working with our first responders, primarily through Bill Priest, our EMT training chief. And we've been working with police and fire to make sure that we get anyone tested when it's appropriate. And sometimes we're even able to take advantage of rapid testing for free through certain programs that are in progress right now. We'll soon be getting into voluntary vaccines. More to come on that information. It's still developing as we speak. And also we will be doing a mask update. We just received information from the Department of Health that they're eliminating neck gaiters, bandanas, and those little vented masks that might have a little vent on the side of it. They're taking those out of the safety protocol. So we'll be sending up an update to all staff and managers on that here shortly. But that's it from the HR side.
Thank you very much. And, we'll move around to just a few of these, and then we'll turn it back to you, Mr. Supervisor, for board questions. There's a lot of things we can't do, but Director Maisner's found some things we can do. So an update on what our Parks Department from Director Maisner, what we're doing during COVID.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, Supervisor Stika and board members. You know, we are the department that engages with the community. And of course, with COVID, it's been a little difficult, but I've got to tell you, our staff has really plowed through this. We have still been able to maintain programs and activities, and I'd just like to go over a few of those right now. We have had a very successful senior exercise program that typically operates in the mall food court on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. We'll have approximately 60 seniors that show up for that. And we did take a pause early on, but then they ended up moving outdoors to the basketball court at Nancy Moore Park, and they've stayed masked. They brought their own chairs because a lot of it is just chair exercise. And then also when the weather got a little colder, they moved to the former Farmers Market Pavilion where there's some walls up, and we actually put some tarps in there to make it a little warmer, but they stayed strong until just this past Monday, I think was their last day. So they're going to take a pause now until springtime, but they really, you know, they really wanted to get together, but they did so safely. Also, Emma with our land stewardship program, she had a number of work days, and a lot of it was just with individual families. And then also offered virtual trainings for our parks and our land preserves. The Harris Nature Center offered private lessons for families. I call them private lessons. I don't know exactly what we call them technically, but families could come in on their own and get and the children could receive a nature lesson of sorts. That we work hard to follow the curriculum from the school programs, and that's been successful. We also have virtual chipmunk story time for toddlers, and then walks in the woods with dog howl at the moon and all sorts of walks on our trails. The deer management program, obviously, we have 75 hunters in this program. So far, they've killed, I think, 160 deer, and we're on 2,000 acres, and we've donated about 2,200 pounds of venison to the community. And so that's over a ton of meat in this program so far. And then also Mike Devlin, we've gotten into, now that it's the holiday season, the drive-through Santa program. We brought that back, and that was on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and again tonight. Those programs people had to pre-register. They get 12 minutes with Santa, and it's all distance. The children stay in the cars. They have to wear a mask. They have conversations with Santa. The parents ahead of time send the children's names and names of the pets and all of those things. So Santa can have this very individual type conversation, and it's been hugely successful. They get photos. Santa stands outside the car at the end of the car, and actually it's been wonderful. Also, we've worked with our communications department for a Santa video program where the children send in videos. Santa has recorded videos back to send to the children, and that's been fun. And then also what's been going on since mid-May has been our farmers market. We brought that, and we have successfully managed there's been days with 3,000 visitors at the market. And with our vendors, we've been able to successfully do that with no outbreaks. And we've been very, very happy with that program. Our dog parks, we opened the large dog park. Obviously, our small dog park opened last year. We have over 500 members in that, and people have been using that. Our pickleball courts, our seniors have still been playing pickleball safely. And then, of course, our parks and land preserves have been a godsend to many folks in the community who could just casually get outside, get some exercise, and be out in nature. So even though our sports, youth and adult sports programs have had to take a back seat this year, we have been able to successfully engage the community. Also, I didn't mention the senior center. There have been celebrations virtually, education programs, exercise programs, and also well-checked phone calls to all the members of the senior center on a regular basis. I believe once every 2 weeks, there's a personal phone call that goes to all the members just to check on them. So we have been busy here in the Parks and Recreation Department, and look forward to the vaccines and getting back at it with some of our regular programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Maisner. That's a great update. Over to Chief Plaga and the Police Department.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Styka, board members. At the police department, we've had actually 6 employees that have contracted the COVID-19 virus. 5 of those are back to work, and 1 is on the mend as we speak. Our tasks, it's difficult to do some of the things that we need to do remotely, but we have begun taking calls for service remotely, telephones, utilizing online services. We also are utilizing masks and following the protocols set forth for best practices for keeping cars clean. We've adjusted the shifts so that the overlap in officers and the platoons are actually working and they're not being exposed to each other as much as they would be in a normal rotation shift. So those are the things that we're conducting here at the police department. And unfortunately, sometimes we just have to come in contact with people.
Thank you for your leadership, Chief Plaga. Chief Hamill of the Fire Department.
Yeah, Supervisor Styka and board and manager, thanks, and good afternoon. Just like Ken, we've had 1 confirmed back to work, and then we've got 1 pending right now. Other than basically maintaining our engineering controls, we've been pretty successful in protecting our troops as they go out and respond and working with patients. So that's gone really well. We've helped a lot of the neighboring jurisdictions and just wanted to touch on a little bit about what Abby mentioned. A few months ago, Chief Priest started a program locally where we would test our own first responders, police, fire, and it worked out really well. We partnered with Delhi and our Tri-County, which manages our protocols for EMS. That's actually gone pretty viral. And we've been actually working, mainly Bill has, with people in the UP and other counties across the state that have actually mimicked our program. So it's really worked out well and saved time trying to wait in line at a hospital or a prompt care or a place like that to get a test and then wait the 3 to 5 days for results where we can get results overnight. We are also working on working with a local facility to actually test the rapid test because you're still supposed to get the PCR with the rapid test because if it's positive, it's generally positive, but if it's negative, it could be a false negative. So you're still supposed to get a PCR with that. So we're waiting for that pilot program to start up. And then the plan is that we would do the rapid test in the mornings prior to work. And that way, by 15 minutes or so into the job, we would know if someone's positive and react from there. So just a little more preventative that we're working on for the future. Other than that, everybody's healthy, ready for the holidays. Run volume's kind of gone up. Obviously, a lot of COVID out there and other things. So we're doing well and just happy to serve. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate your leadership. Director Clark, a brief update on our development projects. Where do the major projects stand?
Major projects that, good afternoon, Township Board members. Major project status for Village of Okemos is the demolition for the first phase. The building should be down by the end of January. Anna's House hopes to have occupancy permit to allow staff in at the end of the year with an opening in January. Klingman's is just about the same thing. They're hoping that they'll be open in January. I believe that they've had some stalls in supply chain and logistics, which is something that a lot of our businesses are suffering with that are able to stay open. A lot of our corridor businesses too, like even Mattress Sources, they're able to serve their customers, but they are not able to get access to the products. Buddy's Pizza, we haven't received any comments back from the engineering and building team since they came about their site plan in November. We're going to follow up with them. We haven't heard that they are not moving forward, but they have not come back after our comments. And Water Cooper will submit site plans soon, and we're hoping to have that residential project start off in 2021.
Thank you very much, Director Clark. Director Kieselbach, quickly, what's is a comparison to 2019 investment versus 2020 investment in the community? Can you tell the board where we are year-to-year comparison?
Good afternoon, everyone. We haven't had as good of a building season as we thought we originally were going to have, but it isn't bad with the construction shut down for 2 months this year. We did come back. Unfortunately, some of the projects we were anticipating on this year either are postponed or are not going to be built now. At the end of November last year, we were at about $55.4 million in construction value. This year, we're at 48.8, so we're down 6.6 million. What that relates to is permit fees because they're all based on construction value. So total per building, we're down about $158,000 where we were last year at this time. Probably could have been much worse than that. It always seems to be in a cycle with building permits up 1 year, down another year. One of the things, we do have some new single family residential coming online. We're Copper Creek on Hazlitt and Silverstone on Powell. Both of those, the developers saying they're going to be ready to get building permits for new house construction. Probably right after the first year. One thing just in interest, if you look at these figures, overall the cost for construction has increased. And we didn't lose any money on the new single family starts this year. We're even from where we were last year, but we're down on the number of permits. Last year, the average cost for construction of a new house was $330,000. This year it's averaging 440,000 on average for a new house start. So.
Thank you very much for that report. It's important to know where we are, where we've been and where we're at, but those numbers are much closer together. And also the foresight of our management team not to fill a planning position 10 months ago with this downturn looks like a pretty good decision at this point. Going over to the finance department for a quick update, water shutoffs and revenue sharing. Director Madison.
Hi, good afternoon, board. Where we're at on water shutoffs is that I believe the House voted on Thursday 96-6 to extend the shutoff period to the end of March, so March 31st. I believe that should be on the governor's desk very quickly. Mr. Trustee Absamer can, you know, chime in if he knows anything more on that. So we'll follow those protocols and we won't do any water shutoffs through the end of March. And then also wanted to touch base a little bit on our state revenue sharing. At the beginning of all of this process, we thought that we were going to be about $500,000 short on our state revenue sharing with the changes and purchases. I think we're going to be a little short, maybe down, maybe 50 to 100,000 based on the last payment that we're going to get. But I think the picture looks a lot better than what we had thought at the very beginning of the COVID process.
Thank you very much. And Treasurer DeShane, did you have anything to add?
Yes. Briefly, these 75 days from December 1st to February 14th are the days in which we collect all of our township revenue that goes to the township and goes to everyone but the non-education people. So it's really important that despite the lockdown, we stayed open. We did create a new envelope for our residents. You can see it here. It sits out at the curb and allows them to put in their email address and address so they can drop off a payment. We'll either electronically send them a receipt or send it via US mail. We have found that our walk-in traffic is down 95% from last year, as we had hoped. We do have the town hall open. Thank you to Stephen and others, Derek and the crew that set up a safe reception area out there where we receive payments, utility payments and tax payments. Building department also meets with contractors to take permits. So we're practicing every bit of safe protocol that we can, and it's working. Our revenues are where they should be, and we continue to have exceptional residents who are working with us, dropping off payments or mailing them in rather than bringing them in person. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Supervisor, that's kind of a combined response or comprehensive response of what we're doing as a community, as a team in response to COVID, what we have been doing and what we continue to be doing. And I would turn it back over to you to see if there's any questions.
Okay, I have a couple of questions first. Have we had any non-public safety employees that have faced issues with the COVID virus?
Yes, we have.
Number-wise?
I would say 2 or 3.
2 or 3, okay. And are they recovered or we're still having that issue?
We're in good shape.
Okay. The other thing is on water shutoffs, please, if somehow this thing falls apart and governor doesn't sign it, you know, we can always include that in our emergency order here from the township. So please keep me in the loop on that. Any board members have any questions or issues they want to raise? Mr. Trustee Absamer.
Yeah, to the water point, I was actually going to propose that we just consider acting today to extend that water shutoff here in the township through the end of June. You know, to pretend as if on March 31st there isn't still going to be an active pandemic is rather silly. The OMA extension for virtual meetings and the water shutoff were both extended until March 31st, and that just continues to be a trend. I mean, every other board meeting that we meet, we talk about how the OMA is about to expire. So the legislature is continuously being very conservative in extending these assurances to the public. I think it would be in our interest just to say through, the beginning of summer, water shutoffs would be postponed, because we know that minimally, even if we are extremely effective in implementing the vaccine, and getting that distributed and to patients, we're going to have, best case scenario, that would be midsummer for us to really have an impact with the vaccine. So that would be something that I would propose.
Certainly, if nothing else, we can issue, or the supervisor with the affirmance of the board can issue an emergency order that would include both of those things through the end of June, like do that in the January meetings. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Walsh, do you have more for us here?
Not under item A, but we do under item B, sir.
Okay, let's move on to B then.
Okay, I won't reiterate to you what's in the memo. I know you all read it. What we're proposing today is that the board consider round 2 of the small business relief program that the board initiated several months ago. The corpus at that time was around 150,000. We did about 37 $4,000 grants to help small businesses. It was the requirements to apply for that were somewhat stringent a few months ago. What's proposed to you today is less stringent. The net will be cast much further and wider with this program if the board decides to go forward. It's a recommendation that we use the Meridian Redevelopment Fund. There's currently $700,000 in that. We're recommending we use $500,000 of that and make it exactly similar to the program that we did. It worked really well 4 months ago, and go forward with the same format and have the money in the hands of our local businesses within 3 to 4 weeks. If we move swiftly, we can get it done. I won't go over all the other tenets. You have it in front of you, and I know you're well read and come to the meetings prepared. So I would turn it back over to you, Mr. Supervisor. Director Clark has if you have questions about the details of the program or the conditions set forth, Director Clark would be the one to address those questions too. Thank you.
Okay, Director Clark, do you have anything you want to add before I put it out there for questions?
Just to reiterate what Manager Walsh said, that we really worked to make the eligibility window open for as many businesses. It does mean that we will receive a lot of applications, but that responsibility of award will go to the committee that was originally established, and they'll be able to make the right case-by-case determination for award.
I know that preliminary to today, we had a question as to why we're capping at $7,000. And why do you answer that?
Yeah, I just think if you take a look at being able to, at all the businesses that are available to apply for this, we had 4,000 last time. We're almost doubling it to $7,000. We think that's a good number because it allows us to help many more businesses. I think when you go up to 10,000, what it does is it gives everyone the impression that we're going to get $10,000. And if you do that, we're really going to be limited on the number of businesses that we can help. We talked about it internally. We think that 7,000 is an appropriate number to go with at this time. But it's certainly open, and final decision rests with the board.
You use that number. What did that translate into in terms of what you estimate in terms of the number of businesses we would be able to assist?
Well, that's really a variable. There's no common denominator to that, because we're obviously not all businesses are going to get $7,000, but if you did, there would be, I think 71,000 is when I did the math on it. But we would probably affect, I would say, closer to 90 or 95 businesses, because there's going to be a number of them that get a much, there's obviously a difference, and I won't go into, there's a difference between a restaurant that's been around forever and has lots of employees versus a much smaller operation that's new to the community. And you can make all those comparisons. But my guess is the minimum amount, Mr. Supervisor, would be 71. But I would think we'd be in the mid-90s for businesses the way I project it.
And just as a reminder to everyone, how many did we help with our first phase a couple of months ago?
We did 37 businesses at $4,000 each.
Okay. And then the other question that's come up in advance of today is the limit of 50 employees. In fact, I think you brought this up yourself to the board. Have you had more thoughts on that?
Yeah, in recollection, Director Clark and I discussed, actually, she came down to talk to me about that maybe on Monday or Tuesday. And on her reflection, thought that maybe we should, if we're going to cast that net, maybe it be further than that the 50 ceiling for employments ought to be removed. And it should just be open to any business in Meridian Township other than home occupations that can apply. And obviously, I think the group's going to look at a large supermarket differently than they're going to look at a small mom and pop restaurant. That's the whole point.
Okay, so we're not limiting this to just totally homegrown businesses. If you're a franchise owner, for example, you still qualify.
Anyone can apply.
Okay. All right. Other board members, Mr. Opsmer, you had your hand out a minute ago.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor Stajka, and thank you, Director Clark and Manager Walsh. I appreciate the effort to organize this meeting after we kind of briefly discussed this relative to our fund balance at the last board meeting. And I appreciate how thoroughly the packet has been prepared with the application and all of the eligibility criteria. I would also support getting rid of criteria 2 with the 50 employee cap, just so we give everybody the opportunity to apply. And I appreciate that we've casted a wide net in terms of franchisees, as Supervisor Stajka referenced. That was something that I raised. I've been looking at that issue in my day job. You know, franchises like Douglas J and Bigby are not eligible for the Pure Michigan relief funding, which is the funding that the MEDC is currently taking applications on, and that opened on December 15th, so 3 days ago. And we're trying to fill in those gaps like we talked about. So by casting a wide net, we're going to have a lot of businesses that are only eligible for our relief funding. And this will be their only opportunity to even apply, much less be awarded those funds. I was thinking about that we might want to increase that cap, but I appreciate Manager Walsh's explanation on the goal and objective being to get closer to 90,000 or 90 businesses. I do have one question as it relates to our applicant pool from the previous time we did this. Did we have a nonprofit or any nonprofits that did apply? I know they're eligible.
You did have nonprofits apply and were eligible, and they did receive a portion of the grant as well as the LEAP grant. I believe the Nemokas Learning Center was an applicant and an awardee.
Okay. So, and we could always have, you know, just as we talk about that, the relationship between the number of businesses being assisted and the total funding that we've appropriated or proposed to appropriate here. You know, it's always possible that we could have food pantries apply. And our 2 big food pantries here in the township are doing quite well with private giving and other support that have come in. But, you know, there might always be a willingness on the committee to support with a low dollar figure, which obviously brings the average down. So I just, you know, in presenting a hypothetical where, you know, we might award 500 or 1,000 to a business or a nonprofit that is otherwise doing pretty well, you know, similar to Meals on Wheels requesting a $1,000 increase. So just food for thought, but that would just push us closer to supporting 100 businesses. The only thing that I see that I think should be added would be 2 questions to the application. One to the effect of, please explain how your business has been adversely impacted by the pandemic. Director Clark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything along those lines.
Correct. We don't have that along the lines, but I think we were thinking because of the recent business survey that we sent out where 80% of the respondents have requested financial assistance of some sort, and a good portion of them being a part of our restaurant, bar, hospitality industries. We figured that they were negatively impacted, and that if they couldn't exactly explain or show the proof of the negative impact, that might narrow our parameters. But it can be included.
Okay, we're just thinking in terms of the committee and trying to gauge the need for one business to another. You know, to explain their financial position and how it's changed might be helpful for the committee. The other thing that came to mind, because we are trying to fill in gaps, would be a question to the effect of, what other relief funding have you received? Please detail the source, date, and amount. Because we really need to know what support they've received. And obviously there's been any number, you know, there's been probably a dozen different sources that business owners have pursued. So I really think that those two questions should be included. I mean, we've already heard from some of our small businesses just ad hoc making their financial case to the township. And so I think they need to be able to explain the specific and unique impact that they've encountered.
Good point.
So those would be my only two recommendations, is including that on the application for the benefit of the committee and making prudent decisions in awarding the grants and the amount to be awarded.
Okay, before we go on to other things, let's have any input by other board members with regard to the 2 points raised by Mr. Trustee Opsover. Treasurer DeShane.
Yeah, I actually like adding both of those questions. I think they improve the application and give us good information as to why people are asking for it and what other help they're getting that are helping them. A third question could be, how will this keep you in business? But that's a tougher one to define. But I think the more information we have from these applicants, the better we're going to be, and the better able we are to ascertain rather, should they get $2,000 or $5,000 or $7,000. We don't know that answer off the bat. It's not a fixed amount, it's a variable amount, and these questions can help us to determine how much to award the applicants.
Okay, we'll get to that third question you're recommending after we finish the first two. Mr. Trustee Wazinski.
I would also support both of those questions, and I kind of, to what Treasurer said, that I think we're going to have a better way to justify the choices, because I think we're going to have a lot of businesses that are going to apply for this as, you know, this pandemic continues. So the more information we can have so that we can justify who and how much, I think would be really helpful.
Anyone else on the two questions recommended by Trustee Asmer, Trustee Jackson?
Yes, it seems to me that in many of the earlier efforts to support businesses, the proposed uses were limited to supporting employees and things like rent and utilities. Are we in liberalizing this effort, removing those kinds of restrictions, or otherwise discounting those limits as a part of our effort?
I believe those are being, I think those are not parameters that we're asking. They can be included in a question, but right now it's a very general, very liberal ask.
Okay.
Anything else on the
In that case, I can support the two additional questions that are added, which would, and to some extent, address those issues.
Anyone else on those two questions, adding those two questions? Okay, I think we got consensus to add them. The third question that was recommended by Treasurer is the opposite side of one of those. So you want to repeat that third one there, Mr. DeShane?
Be an open-ended question to ask, how will this grant help you to stay open into 2021?
Okay, is there a discussion on this? Is this something we want to add to this application? Is there a reason not to? Let's put it that way. Trustee Wazinski.
I would say that that question would get to what Trustee Jackson was questioning. It would allow, again, for justification. What do you plan to use this for? Do you plan to use it to retain employees or, to ensure that the buildings can stay open versus new, appliances or something. I think it would allow us again to help justify how much, who, and who gets what.
Okay, good points. Anyone else? Is there anyone that feels that we should not be asking, before I get to that, Trustee Opser, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, one of the things that was unique with our first round of grants was that it was completely open-ended, to Trustee Jackson's point. Businesses were not constrained on how they used it, because we did have restaurants that were complaining that the PPP, the payroll program, some of them, you had small restaurants getting $80,000 in PPP funding through their bank or their financial institution, but they didn't have enough demand to prepare that food and to sell that food to actually hire those employees. So some businesses chose to essentially pay people and there was no function for them to perform in terms of the goods or services that restaurant is performing. Whereas others just said, I don't know what to do with this because I'm not going to hire people just to sit there. I think perhaps the federal government was thinking, we're trying to keep people employed to reduce, the burden on the unemployment system, but it didn't help the businesses keep their doors open. I'm just wondering if there's a way to, and I don't have a specific suggestion, just to preface that question so the businesses don't feel, a psychological pressure on how they answer that. Because some might think that the township's intent is that we want them to hold on to their employees when it's not practical for some industries like restaurants. There are some that right now, they can operate with 1 or 2 people. The cook is literally the one taking the food curbside. And like Saddleback Barbecue, at least for a time, I don't know if they just turn their phones off basically, or at least they didn't turn the phones off literally, but they encourage people to submit orders online because they just had the one person. So online orders would come in, the cook would prepare it and literally take it out to your car. So just, I don't know, some way to massage it, and Director Clark could handle it. But I support the question. I just don't want businesses to overthink it, because those that are the hardest hit, are going to look at that and really they have to offset their losses. Like if you're operating severely in the red, that's an acceptable answer. If you've lost $50,000, $100,000 since the pandemic started, in your savings for the business, and are nearing, the point where you'd have to take out credit loans that you may or may not be able to get just to continue operating, that's an acceptable answer. So just some way to massage that, but I do support the question.
Okay, well, in light of those comments, I'm wondering if this question really might be a little bit of a detriment. Ms. Guthrie, you had your hand up.
I concur. I think a general question in general, how do you intend to use these funds to assist your business losses? Something in general that doesn't put a lot of pressure on a business, that just, I think that's an easy question to ask. And I don't think it's outrageous for the township to ask a general question like that in assisting businesses. And I think these businesses know that we do want to assist them and help them as best that we can.
So you're suggesting if we had the phrase at the beginning, in general, how do you, it'd be better than asking for detail.
Yeah, I do. And it's not, that question is, it's not contingent upon them getting the money. It's just how, share with us how you're going to use this to assist your business.
Yeah, the idea is that we're going to have a tool to help us if we end up with 150 applicants, so we got to get it down to 90. How do we pare them down? We need to tell them that. It's just it discouraged them from applying in the first place.
Right.
Anyway, so that sounds like if we word it in a general way like that, that would be a third additional question, Ms. Clark.
Okay. I have it set as, please share in general how you plan to utilize the awarded funding. Your response will not affect the award determination.
Good.
I don't know if I want to add that last phrase. It could have, I think I'd leave it open without that last
All
phrase.
right.
The last phrase, just an ad hoc idea though, but that last phrase could just be amended to say, offsetting business losses does not, deem businesses ineligible.
Yeah, or maybe we just don't say it that way. We're not, we're almost going too far. We start to become so technical that they're going to be worried about what they say.
We need to make it clear we're not forcing people to have active payroll that their business has no demand for. And those are the businesses most likely to go under, unfortunately. It's like a double-edged
It's true.
sword.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it to Mr. Walsh and Ms. Clark to figure that out. Anything else? Yes, Treasurer.
I'd like to say that one thing about these grants that I like more than the first round is that we're not requiring the owner to live in Meridian Township. We had some pretty strict limitations before, and we had reasons for it, for passing it that way, but this is better. We are supporting local businesses. Our businesses in the township, they could live in Bath Township or East Lansing or Pasadena, California, but if they're a local business, that's what we care about supporting. So I think removing that restriction was a very good idea.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I think what we said was they had to be a Meridian-born business rather than the owner live in Meridian. But yeah, it's still an important distinction.
And while I have the floor, I appreciate the committee from before coming back, including you, Trustee Jackson and Supervisor Stika. But do we want to have this? The technical decision is not a political decision. And while your input is valuable, for the same reason we don't involve board members in our decision as to which roads get fixed every year, do we want to have board members involved in this decision making? Just want to throw it out there, but I don't mean to demean from your input. I think this is a technical decision that we want to make, and as much as we can pass it on to staff, I think it's stronger for the board.
It's a good, very excellent question to raise and good point. Other board members, how do you feel about that? Gee, you stunned everybody, Phil. Courtney.
Just say I would support that.
Dan, you had your hand?
Yeah, I'm fine either way.
Okay.
I do think having diverse representation though, if we're going to take a board member off, maybe put someone else on there. People are hearing from businesses in the community. It helps to have more eyes than fewer on the applications.
Let me ask Manager Walsh, if we don't have a couple board members on this committee, how would you reconstitute the committee?
Well, I haven't given that any thought. I'd probably go back to the board and say, what are your thoughts? I will tell you this, that I understand and appreciate the question from the treasurer. And there's a lot of merit to it. I will tell you that we had a very, very robust discussion with the membership that we had, and it went extremely well, and there was no politics. And I felt free as sitting there, and I work for two of the people at the table. I felt very free and unbridled to share my own thoughts. And I disagreed many times with the two board members, and we just simply took votes. It's really up to you. But the process worked extremely well last time. But I understand the thought of, should we mirror this to the roads? I understand that. And so really it's your decision. But if you decide not to have any board members, I would come back to you with some suggestions on how we fill those other couple seats.
That's sort of what I was asking you now, that on the chance that we may decide to implement this, with a vote today, what your thoughts would be in terms of filling those seats if we chose to go that route.
Yeah, I'd probably add, perhaps, and I'm just throwing it out there, probably would add, you start to go out the community and you've got the same issue. You can add community members, but they have ties, they know people. And what I'd probably do is maybe add a position like the finance director, maybe the deputy manager, and maybe somebody in community development, that sort of thing that deals with businesses. Mr. Menser might be added. But I don't want anyone to think that there was, and I know we're not suggesting this, but I want to be really clear from someone who sat at the table, even though we had 6 folks in there and 2 elected officials, 2 of the 6 were elected officials. It was a very, very non-political environment that we worked through. So if you decide after this meeting that you're not going to have board members, I simply will go back and figure out the 2 additional folks from internally here. And then report back to you. Whatever you want to do, Mr. Supervisor.
Clerk Guthrie.
I would support taking the board members off and trusting in the manager to make those appointments, if we were to do that.
Well, that's the question. Are we going to, which way do we want to go? You sound like you support going in that direction.
Yes, I would support going in that direction, yes.
Treasurer.
I want to say to begin with, I don't believe the first round, the first process we had was influenced politically in any way. And that's why I was a little bit hesitant to even bring this up, because I think it was a fair process from everything I've heard of those discussions. I think that it puts you and Trustee Jackson in a difficult position, or could in the future if that accusation was ever made. What's different this time is there's more money involved. We're dealing with 3 times as much money and probably a lot more grants. And so that's 3 times more likely that someone who didn't get funded might come back and level such a charge. I don't want to see you 2 volunteering your time and expertise and then only have that come back later and be used against you. That would be highly unfair. So that's the reason I bring it up. Let's make sure we don't put you, the supervisor and trustee, in a difficult position here moving forward.
I can tell you that I received absolutely no negative comments from anybody. I don't know about Ms. Jackson.
I did not. I was actually impressed by the lack of political thinking at all in the evaluation of the applications and the decisions made. I thinking at this point that I will vote against the suggestion, because I don't think it's necessary, but in general, I don't feel very strongly one way or the other. I don't think I'm being denied an opportunity to participate in the process.
Board members, at this point, I'm not sure we have a consensus. We have a couple people that thought we should change it, one who felt good either way, and another one who feels maybe not.
I would honestly concur with Trustee Jackson. I'm being honest. I don't feel strongly one way or another, but I do think we, receive input and sentiment from the community on hardship. And so I think it's part of the duties to bring, the input and whatnot that we receive from the community to the table, but I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, I guess as I think more about this, and I appreciate the question, it's a really good one. And there is a mirroring to the local road program. But when I look at this, I think to myself, you're entrusted and voted on, elected to spend $40 million in the budget. You're entrusted today or in the future about whether we're going to spend $500,000. The buck stops with you. You decide that. And if that's the case, and if that's what the voters entrust you to do, maybe you're entrusted then to decide where some of the $500,000 goes to. I guess that's where I come down on it. You're entrusted to do that.
And Treasurer.
Having heard the manager just said, and Trustee Jackson, if my idea was thought of as a motion, I want to withdraw that. And I wanted to raise the issue. I think we've addressed the issue. And so I don't think we need a vote, because I haven't made a motion per se on that. So I'm glad we could discuss it, but I respect what the manager just said. He's right. We spend a lot more than $500,000 in our budget every year. And as long as the trustee Jackson and Supervisor Stika are okay serving on it and confident that the process will be repeated as the first time, then I withdraw that motion, if you will, to remove board members from this review committee.
Yeah, it wasn't being treated as a motion, just as a discussion item, but I appreciate those comments. All right, it seems like we have a new consensus as I watched the clerk shake her head.
Well, I appreciate Treasurer DeShane bringing that up, because there could be people who would possibly view it in the way in which you were describing. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, and I appreciate the discussion. And I understand the quandary that someone could feel if they were in that position. So I appreciate the discussion on it.
It's certainly board members, should communicate. If it's myself and Trustee Jackson, the other board members could certainly be communicating to us what they're hearing, what businesses are suffering that they've gotten information from, et cetera. Okay, anything else? Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, just one suggestion. I was dealing with an issue out in the hallway, so I'm not sure if I missed something. But one thing that could happen too, and maybe Mr. Supervisor, you just mentioned this, but we could provide the board members with all the copies of all the applications. And if they have some thoughts, opinions, I mean, you're all elected to do this, right? So if you have thoughts about those, you should translate those thoughts to your board members who serve on there so they can convey where you're at. And that would.
Well, I'd be concerned about an Open Meetings Act violation if we did that.
Okay.
It sounds like we're making a decision without being in meeting. Once you start having all the board members communicating. Informal communications is one thing, but that sounds like too formal a process, and I'd be worried about the Open Meetings Act. Not to say that they shouldn't receive the applications, and certainly my phone is here and my computer is here. I'm ready to hear from people. Treasurer.
Question for Director Clark. What outreach do you plan to use to inform local businesses of these grants? Some will hear about it through the media, some will hear about it through MABA or MEDC, but others won't. And those are the ones I'm more concerned about us reaching out to.
Well, so our last round of grants, we kept a directory. So those will be the first, and there'll be a direct email blast or phone calls. But I can't call 200 businesses all within a week, but I do have a prepared email blast that will go to those grant awardees from the last round or participants from the last round, whether or not they were awarded. If they applied to the last round, they will get an email blast with an explanation and information about the application. And then sharing it with our regional partners. I gave a little bit of an update to our LEAP area partners and our regional partners this week. So I told everybody to watch out for it, and then social media blasts. So we do have a strategy already prepared.
Trustee Wazowski.
Supervisor, I would like to make a motion, if it's appropriate, to a motion to strike number 2 from the business eligibility.
Okay, well, first, right now we're in discussion mode only. So if we're gonna, we would have to, if we're gonna be moving to adopt this today, we would have to suspend the rules and move in that direction. Is that what you wanted to do?
I'm willing to suspend the rules and make a motion today.
Okay, that's a motion to suspend the rules so we can act on this today. Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Opsimer. All those in favor say aye, or put their hand in front of their face. Okay, I see all 6 board members with hands in front of their face. Thank you. All right, now go ahead, Ms. Wazowski.
I move to strike the eligibility criteria number 2 that requires businesses that have employees 50 or fewer. And I also move to add the 3 questions to the application that were with respect to impact, other funds received, and how they would use the funding.
Support.
I'll support that.
Heard a support, was that Mr. Opsper first?
Jackson.
Jackson, okay, sorry. All righty, discussion on this. I think we kind of pre-discussed it. Ms. Jackson, you have some more, yes.
I would only add that, maybe Director Clark might need to, change her methods of getting the word out, considering that we're changing the, criteria for applicants, including the inclusion of franchises operations in the township. And so she may need to find other ways to get the word out that this opportunity will be available.
I don't know what lists are in her office, but seems to be from in the past, there was at least some sort of long list of businesses in the township that her directors had access to, I believe, Ms. Clark.
Oh, yes, there is a running list of some businesses, and so we'll do our best for contact information as far as the entire Meridian Township, and I can talk to your communications department about other options for.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, Trustee Osmer.
I didn't catch everything that Director Clark shared, but certainly reaching out to the chamber, Tim Damon and Steve Jappinga, they could put it out to their list. And Mr. Trezise and Leap could put it out to their list, and, networking the other people with directories.
Good points. Okay. Yes, Treasurer.
Appreciate Trustee Jackson's comment. This is a larger universe we're reaching out to here, and we want to make sure that we that be known, and there's more money involved, and we're trying to reach more businesses.
Okay, we sort of have a cart before the horse in the sense that we got a motion to change some things, but without having actually made a motion to adopt something. But on the other hand, the motion to adopt is rather broad. So at this point, let's have a vote on the changes that Ms. Wazinski has made a motion to make, which is the dropping of number 2 in the eligibility and adding the 3 questions. Is that right, Ms. Wazinski?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Guthrie, you want to get a vote on that?
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Trustee Opsmer,
Yes.
Trustee Sudlin, Trustee Wazinski,
Yes.
Supervisor Stika,
Yes.
and the clerk votes yes.
Okay.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, so we would need a motion to authorize the use of the $500,000 of the Meridian Redevelopment Fund to fund the Meridian Township Small Business Relief Program and release the grant application on Monday, December 21, 2020, as those documents have been amended at this meeting. Mr. Op.
So moved, since you read it in its entirety.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Jackson. Okay. Any discussion of the whole matter? We could still make some more changes if you want. Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
I just have a few questions.
Sure.
If you remove the 50 requirement, maybe I missed this, is there a cap or is there not a cap? It's just removing the 50. It's just a clarifying question.
There was no cap.
Okay, and then is there a separate criteria for this, or is it just, it's all encompassing the same criteria as everyone else?
It's just all in terms of there's no cap. So anyone who qualifies otherwise, I mean,
It's the same application process, I guess, is my question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, Treasurer.
Before I vote on this, I do want to thank staff for drafting this and bringing this before the board. Manager Walsh, Director Clark, Planner Menser, Director Kieselbach, Tickler. This is a well thought out plan. You've got specifics to it. We've amended it slightly, but the the framework of it is essentially the one that you presented to us. This board spoke when we did this 5 or 6 months ago that we thought we need a second round. In fact, we desperately do for our businesses. And I appreciate the good staff work that brought this to the board this time. So thank you all for your good work.
I think we all join 100% of those comments. Mr. Osmer.
I would echo Treasurer DeShane's comments and sentiments. I appreciate Director Clark and Manager Welch bringing this very quickly. And I noticed when I kind of entered into this discussion as it related to our fourth quarter budget amendment, I saw Manager Welch make a note, and I think we're working very well in tandem and unison. And we're getting a lot done in a very short amount of time these days, which is, a credit to management and the board working extremely well together, and our directors executing extremely efficiently. So I appreciate how robust this was, and I think we've made a lot of improvements from the first time around, which was still an exceptional process, but looking at the changing landscape and the changing needs and making sure we're casting a broad net. So I think staff's intuition on that was spot on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The best people learn from history, and we're learning from our history. We improved what we did just a few months ago. Okay, anything else? Then we'll have a vote. Ms. Guthrie.
All right, Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Trustee Osmer,
Yes.
Trustee Sunland, Trustee Wazinski,
Yes.
Supervisor Stika,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes, and Treasurer DeShane.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 6-0.
6-0, 1 absent. Thank you very much. Is there anything else on this, Manager Walsh, or before we go on to comments from the public?
No, just thank you on behalf of the staff and certainly be the community. Thank you for this. This is just a great example of when you have a board that works really well together. They manage their finances well for years. They have a fund that they're able to do this with and provide this, and a staff who can make it happen. And we'll put a press release out about this right away. And Director Clark will oversee the program. And we're excited to move forward. So thank you very much.
And I appreciate the board moving it now rather than waiting till the January meeting, because with the end of the year coming, and there's various tax implications there, and the holidays, there's sort of psychological effect there. It's good to get it started now. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Now we'll move on to comments from the public. If Mr. Geebies can hear us, do we know whether we have anybody that's going to comment?
We will, of course, allow people to raise hand in the attendee area if they choose to. Once again, 517-349-1232 for anyone who might be calling in from the home TV stream or any of the various internet streams. I'm not seeing any hands go up in the attendee area at this time, and I'm hearing no phones ring, sir.
Okay. Give it another half a moment. All right, with that, are there other matters from the board? Any board members have anything they want to bring up? Well, very good. Hey, maybe we should have meetings at noon all the time. We get done quickly. All right, with that, then we need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Supported by Wazinski. All right. All those in favor of adjourning, put your hand in front of your face. 6-0, 1 absent. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.